Hey guys, welcome back. This is Arbit. Welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be starting a new Draft League series, actually. And so this week we're going to be talking about my draft for the new series that I started for the Draft League GDL, Global Draft League. I'm joining their 7th season. I've never done one before that. And we're going to be going through my draft. So yeah, it's going to be pretty fun. Sorry if there's a aircon in the background. It's one of the hottest days of the year, so I'm not going to be turning that off. It is sweltering right now. So, yeah. Overall, I'm just going to explain what GDL is about. So, it's basically a standard draft league, national decks, with the exception that only Pokemon from generations 1 to 6 are allowed. So, this is still Gen 8 rules. So, Aurora Veil exists, all the updated movesets and updated stat distributions and typings and all of that, like the move pools and stuff are all still there. Regional variants are actually still here, so Galarian Slowking, for example, is here. However, Pokemon from Gen 7 and 8 are banned. But however, there is the exception of, for example, like I said, regional variants. So Alola Ninetales is here, Galarian Slowking is here, etc. So it's a very interesting format. I don't really know how to analyze it too much, with the exception of a few things. Number one, Tapus are gone. Terrain is basically non-existent, so Pokemon like Hawlucha are really bad, basically. They put it in a pretty high tier for this draft, although a lot of people, and me included, disagree. And it should probably be lower, especially since it can't activate with Terrain now. And another thing is, there are very few good fairies, which can be a good thing and a bad thing, you know? Like, you can't draft a good fairy, really, but that also means you don't have to worry about fairies as much. So, yeah, that's basically all I can really say. There's probably more in-depth stuff, like, oh, you know, Dragapult's not here, that kind of stuff. But overall, it's a pretty standard draft league, and I kind of drafted it as such. So, yeah, we'll go through my draft. I believe I was third last on, so I think I was positioned, can't remember exactly right now. So there were 16 members, and I think I was third last, so that makes me, what, 14th? Which isn't a bad position. I think that's actually pretty good because it lets me get 2 pretty good high tiers. Sure, they're not the first picks, but you'll see that it's actually pretty good. One more thing is that megas were put with values, so the megas, if you chose a high tier mega, you had less points to spend on your freeze. So that's a bit worth knowing as well. So we'll begin with my draft, and I think I started it really strong this season. I read a lot about this Pokemon and how good it was, so I kind of wanted to try it out. So here we have MegaSizzler. MegaSizzler with Bug Steel typing has phenomenal attack stat, amazing ability and technician to give off a massive amount of bullet punches and really strong stab U-turns. Has a phenomenal array of sets. It can run the fog and stuff like that. Also, it just is a great typing. As I said before, there aren't as many fairies, so its steel typing isn't as coveted, but it still is a really good typing. Its only weakness being fire. And yeah, I just really wanted to try this thing out. It's really, really strong and really, really good. Probably one of the best things. It did set back my my budget by about 60 points on my freeze, but I think its power just makes up for a lot. Next up, I decided to draft Dragonite. So I read a lot about the MegaSizzler Garchomp core, and it seemed really, really strong. However, Garchomp was already drafted, so I had to kind of improvise. And I realized that something similar would be a Dragon Flying type, so I decided to pick Dragonite. Obviously, it's not the same thing. It can't rock. It doesn't have the phenomenal ground dragon typing. However, Dragon Flying is still really, really good and does around the same things. Dragonite is weak to Fairy, Ice, and Dragon, which are all resisted by Sizzler, and Sizzler is weak to Fire, and Dragonite takes that pretty well. Obviously, I don't want to switch this in as much because of multi-skill. I want to retain it as much as possible, but I think this is still a really, really good Pokemon. It's extremely versatile. It can be a Cleric with Heal Bell, Roost, the Fog. It can be a Dragon Dance Sweeper. It can be a special attacker if I wanted it, and it's just really, really bulky. One thing I would note about this Pokemon is for the same price, I could have gotten Salamence. which obviously has its own pros and cons. But a funny thing is, by the end of this draft, no one drafted Salamence, and so if I really wanted to, I could use up my transaction budget to swap between Dragonite and Salamence as I wanted. So I guess we'll give Dragonite a spin. I've never used it before, and it looks really promising. But if I do want something maybe a bit faster, maybe with Intimidate or more sweeping potential with Moxie, then maybe I'll switch to Salamence. So we'll see. But I think Dragonite's move pool is so phenomenal. Its amazing stat distribution is pretty good. It's kind of slow to pair with Sizzler, but I think I make up for the speed tiers in future drafts. So yeah, we'll look at that. And speaking of which, next draft I was able to grab Raichu. I really wanted a fast electric type, and especially with Pokemon like Tapu Koko gone, Boltund even, like there were a lot of fast electric types in later gens. There aren't as many in gens 1 to 6. There were, I believe the options were probably like Raikou, Jolteon, Heliolisk, Zebstrika, and Raichu forms. And that basically meant fast electrics were really high demand. So I wanted to grab one really early. Almost grabbed my 4th pick first, but I really didn't want to lose Raikou, so I grabbed it first. So Raikou is really good at just working in a Volt Turn core with Sizzler. Electric type is always great, and is able to click Volt Switch and stuff. It gets access to Scald as well, so it can do damage and even burn ground types that might want to wall it, and it can do stuff like Subtoxic as well, which is a really strong set that I really want to use. Yeah, so I think like it's overall a really strong Pokemon. Next up on our list we have Suicune as my first free for 120 points, which is the same as a tier 2. Suicune is great because Sizzler here, for example, is weak to fire, Dragonite is weak to ice. What resists both? Well, water typing, and here we have Suicune to do just that. Because of certain normal types maybe having coverage options for both Pokemon. Both of my Pokemon, Suicune here is able to eat them both up, and is just a really great special attacker. My first 2 Pokemon are physical attackers, and my next 2 are special, so that's pretty great. Calm Mind sets are really great as well. They're just able to sit on a lot of threats and maybe force a lot of prep with Substitute, Calm Mind, or even Rest or Toxic and stuff like that. So yeah, it's also a pretty fast Pokemon, even though it's quite defensive. So yeah, quite looking forward to using it. Next up on our list, we have Miltank. So Miltank is a really good Pokemon. I really wanted to get it early because I really wanted to use it, mainly because of its ability Thick Fat. Like I said, resistance. Sizzler's weak to fire, Dragonite's weak to ice. What can resist both? Well, Thick Fat Miltank can do that. It can also run Sap Sipper, but honestly, with my first 2 Pokemon, I'm really not concerned with grass types. But now I can be absolutely certain because of Sap Sipper, Miltank as being an option. Scrappy is also a great option to deal with ghost types, so really, it's a really great addition, and also my first rocker. I really wanted to get a good rocker, and Miltank is pretty damn reliable. It's also really bulky and also pretty fast at 100 speed to help out make up for my top Pokemon being quite slow as well. And so yeah, it's just a really great thing to help round out my team with everything it currently wants. Yeah. One more defensive Pokemon before we start going back to other stuff. We have Bronzong. So Bronzong is another Steel type, however it acts completely differently to MegaSizzler, so I thought that was perfectly fine. It's a Steel type, which might think, oh, the ground type weakness, but because it is Bronzong, it is a Steel type that can be immune to ground types because of its ability to levitate. So it actually adds to my resistances to ground types, not reducing it. It's just another really great rocker if I don't want to bring Miltank, and it can do various stuff such as Trick Room. It can just be a pivot. It can cause so much disruption that I just really wanted to use it, and it's a really great defensive Pokemon to eat a hit from something that maybe the other Pokemon here could not do. It also resists ice. It doesn't resist fire unless I run Heat Proof, which is definitely an option, but yeah, that's definitely something I could do. It can also go Gyro Ball or something like that. It's just a pretty great Pokemon overall. Next up, we have Verizon. So I wanted a Grass type to continue my Fire Water Grass core, and also a Fighting type. And Verizon was kind of there as one of the only options remaining. I kind of wanted Chestnut, but that was already drafted. So instead, I got Verizon, and I think that's kind of justified, especially because my offense is kind of physically heavy right now. and I really wanted something that could be a bit more versatile. So Verizon, obviously having 90 attack and 90 special attack, isn't the best defensive Pokemon, but it has pretty big special defense, 120 something, 129 I believe. So it can definitely take some special hits. It can also set up in both ways. It can be Swords Dance, it can be Calm Mind, or it can just be, Choiced or something like that. It has a blistering speed stat as well. So I believe it's 108. So yeah, definitely a valuable Pokemon. Maybe I won't bring it every game, but when it is valuable, I think it definitely will be great. You'll notice that one thing I'm quite weak to right now is Rock. My only resistance being Bronzong, and Verizon definitely helps complement that. It resists Edgequake, which is really great. So it's a pretty great typing, I would say. Next up, we have Rideon as my tier 4. So I really wanted another rocker, kind of, because while the other two are great, it's not really, they're I think like they're very situational. When I would bring them, and Rideon just kind of gives me a third rocker that just makes me certain, like, okay, if I wanted to bring a rocker, I have plenty of options. Rideon has a phenomenal defense stat and an HP stat, so it can be a massive tank, especially if you smack on it Violite, which definitely helps with its kind of abysmal typing, but I think it works out for me here because what's it weak to? It's weak to water, it's weak to grass. Well, grass types aren't a concern with my top 2 Pokemon. Water types are also not as big of a problem, thanks to Raichu, Dragonite, Verizon, Suicune, just kind of being there. And you'll see as well, and like stuff like fighting types could be a bit of a problem right now, but as you'll see, I think I have some solutions for those in the future as well. So it has a plethora of weaknesses, but I think I have the team that can complement it and fix it. Monstrous attack stat in 130 can deal a lot of damage, especially if it's banded or something like that. If I run Assault Vest, maybe I can even eat a special hit. Overall, it's definitely not the Pokemon I bring out all the time, but it's another reliable rocker. It has amazing coverage. It's kind of like Beware too, except it has even better Gen 1 coverage. It has so many moves. It has, I believe, like Fighting, Ghost, Water, Dragon. I can't even name them off the top of my head, but it's just, I really want to try out this Pokemon, so I felt like giving it a shot. It's also a Flying Resist, which I'm kind of lacking right now. Bronzong and Raichu are here, but Raichu doesn't want to really take a hit, and Bronzong I'm not bringing every game, so yeah. I just kind of felt like it was a good roll compression of a ground type and a rock type, and I really couldn't find another option. Completely frankly, I wanted Crocodile initially as a ground type, but that was already taken, so I kind of had to adjust, and here I have Rideon. Next up here we have our Dark type, which is Skuntank. So Dark Poison, a phenomenal ability, my only weakness being ground, and with Dragonite and Bronzong. And Verizon, I'm not too concerned about ground types. They are a bit of a weakness of mine, but we'll see in the future how I deal with that. Dark type is great. It's a grounded poison type to absorb toxic spikes, and it's just a great Pokemon in general. It can run banded, sucker punches, or poison jabs and stuff like that. It can explode, it can defog. Yeah, I just have I'm gonna have a plenty of defoggers, I think, and that's gonna help with removing the pressure of running defog off of my top 2 Pokemon, so that they can kind of focus more on just being awesome. Yeah, Poison Dark is just a really good ability. Sorry, not ability, typing. And Aftermath is a good ability that can help with punishing contact attackers. Maybe smack a Rocky Helmet on that, and yeah, Sucker Punch into Aftermath into Rocky Helmet is a lot of damage to punish something with. I can stop a lot of sweepers. Next up, we have Charizard as my next 60 pointer. Charizard is my fire type for this one. I didn't have many options for a good fire type. I was kind of stuck between. Oh, I initially wanted Delphox actually, but that was drafted just before I could get it. So instead, I have Dragonite and. Sorry, not Dragonite, Charizard. And I think that's honestly a better option for me in retrospect, because Charizard is another ground immunity, which I kind of needed. Like, my ground immunities are great, but they aren't something I want to switch into ground types all the time, and Charizard is just one more option. Obviously, it's weak to rock type moves, which most ground types have access to, so not the best switch in, but it's just another option. I don't think I'm going to be bringing this Pokemon much, but if I do want to do something like Belly Drum Slack or just have it run specs or something, it's definitely there. It's a pretty good speed stat as well, so Yeah, why not, right? It's Charizard, it's a fire type, it does what fire types do. I believe it can also spread burns, so that's pretty valuable for Scizor and Dragonite as well. Last up on our list, we have Mr. Mime as my tier 5. Mr. Mime's a pretty great Pokemon. It's initially I wanted something maybe more defensive like Clefairy, but that was drafted before me, so I just thought what else I should grab, and Mr. Mime was kind of there, and I felt like it was pretty promising. Has a pretty good speed stat. It's not awful. I think I believe it's 90. It has a variety of moves. Has pretty good coverage. It can run screens, and also has access to Healing Wish. So if I want to run Scarf Set, where I can use Healing Wish and 3 attacks, that's a pretty good reason to use it. And it's just a good fairy. It's not the best fairy in the world, but it has pretty good coverage, and obviously can act as a fairy. You can take a hit. And I guess another thing is it's a fairy type that's not weak to poison, so that's pretty good, because a lot of Pokemon like Haxorus, for example, or Garchomp like to deal with fairies by running Poison Jab, and with Mr. Mime, I definitely can deal with it a bit better. Filter is a pretty good ability as well, and this guy can also help me eat fighting hits, which Charizard also actually helps with, actually. So yeah, fighting types are a bit of a concern to me, but not the most now, especially with Charizard and Mr. Mime to help with Dragonite as well. So yeah, this is my draft for the GDL. Overall, I had to do some adjustments. Didn't expect to draft Rideon. Probably not the best ground type and probably not the best rock type, but hey, it's a pretty good roll compression for what I needed, and it let my other Pokemon shine pretty well. Bronzong kind of duplicates both types, two types that I already have, but I think that with the way it behaves, it's kind of that's kind of not an issue. It's kind of its own Pokemon and can definitely stand on its own and justify its existence. Yeah, and I think the versatility of being able to switch between Dragonite and Salamence isn't awful. I might not even do it, but just having it there puts my mind at ease that I can definitely make adjustments if need be. So yeah, these are awesome Pokemon, and I'm excited to try them out this season. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about it in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. Yeah, see you when I try this out next week.